This is the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast, where we spread awareness for men's mental health and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. New episodes drop weekly. Welcome back to the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Steve. Tonight, I'm sitting down with a guest that spent over 25 years in special operations in the United States Army. We're going to go beyond that career in the military. We're going to talk about identity, purpose, and leadership. My guest, Sean, went from being a warrior to an author, and he has got the Dane Cooper series. I have both books here with me tonight. So we're going to get into his time as an author and his career in the military. And one thing before I introduce Sean, I got to show this to the audience. First guest to send me his own challenge coin. That is badass. And Sean, I really appreciate that, man. I'm really grateful for the books and the challenge coin. So without further ado, Sean Hagerty, welcome to the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast, man.
Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate the invite to come on here and talk with you.
Yeah, and let's give Mike a shout out for connecting us. Mike, we appreciate you.
Definitely.
Awesome guy. Yeah, awesome guy. Feel like I should be drinking Silencio coffee tonight since he connected us. But
I had some this morning.
Nice, awesome, man. All right. Well, Sean, for our listeners and our viewers tonight, can you kind of start us from the beginning, man? Where'd you grow up, and what'd your childhood look like?
So I grew up a standard middle-class childhood in suburbs of Detroit. I was up in a town called Troy. Nothing really famous about it. Very, very standard, very normal. I think I heard one of your guests talking about outside in the woods and you couldn't come inside till street lights came on and that kind, your lunch was a bologna sandwich and some Tang on the porch. Yeah. Don't you dare bring those muddy shoes in the house.
That's right. That's right.
I went to Catholic high school down in the city in Detroit. And then from there, I went on to the University of Michigan for, I can't say 4 years. I had to run the bases again. So 5 years there. And then I joined the military from there.
So did you join enlisted or were you commissioned? Okay.
Enlisted. Yep. My intent was not to make the service my career. My intent was to do my time. I wanted to do 2-3 years, do service in the military. And then I actually wanted to be a police officer at the time. I was talking with Chicago and Detroit PD, both of a delayed entry type program where I go serve and then I come right back and go. I think Detroit, I had to go to an academy, and Chicago, I think, had their own. It was so long ago, but I had 2 avenues when I got out of the service, which never happened.
Well, okay, so I want to back up for a sec because you mentioned growing up, with the Catholic background. Was faith a big part of your childhood, young adulthood, and then obviously making that decision to join the military? Did that play a role at all?
Not necessarily in the playing the role of the military. So religion was important in my house, but it kind of just waned over the years. I will say at least my parents, they sent me to Catholic high school, not necessarily for the, theology education, but because University of Detroit Jesuits, it's the Jesuits. It's like the best of the best. They wanted me to have the best education.
Gotcha.
My grandmother lived with us, very, very religious. So I take her to church quite often, but I think it's one of those things where I didn't feel like I had to sit in a room with other people to still kind of follow morality and faith and what have you. And that was kind of and then I went off to college and then the Army and everything got left by the wayside a little bit.
Yeah, I understand that. And I like to ask guests that because I was raised in the church, but when I joined the Navy, it was kind of Steve's decision. I didn't pray about it. I didn't put God in it. And so I always like to kind of ask other veterans that grew up in church, how that affected them. If God was something that was on the forefront of their decision, especially when you make the decision to join the military and my generation, we all joined kind of right after 9/11. So it was obviously a interesting time in the world. But yeah, just curious where you were at with.
Yeah, I'm a pre 9/11 baby. I was actually post Gulf War. Gulf War was my senior year in high school. A lot of us had talked about the time. I remember that is at the Catholic high school. We'd sit around lunch talking about if this is going to become a huge war, they're ever going to have to bring back the draft, right? We haven't had a huge conflict. Anything is so much major since really Vietnam. So that was a big topic of discussion with guys. And there were some guys that were like, I'd be a conscientious objector. I don't believe in violence and in my faith. And that's nothing wrong with it. That's you do you.
Right. Well, as far as joining the military, did you have family members that had served that kind of inspired you to want to go into the Army?
Yes, my dad had been a drill sergeant during Vietnam. My uncle had served in Vietnam. So yeah, there was some lineage, but it wasn't like my dad did his time and got out. Everybody did their time and got out. So we didn't have
Yeah.
any lifers, but, it was just something I wanted to do. I felt like I kind of have this idea in my head that as an American, we should serve in some way capacity.
Hmm.
And if the military is not for you, maybe you go work for the Peace Corps, or maybe you go work something to get a full appreciation of your rights as an American citizen and what protects those and the people that serve to make that happen.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it'd be some kind of service above yourself. It makes you appreciate the country more and just how good we have it here. A lot of people lost sight of that, man, over the years.
That I haven't heard a truer statement in a while.
Yeah, it still just kind of puzzles me how people just take things for granted. But I don't know how to change that unless you do go and into a role where you're going to be serving in the military or you become a police officer or whatever it may be. But unfortunately, the younger generation they just don't get it, man. They just don't see it like some of us do.
I think too some of the problems are the exposure to other. I mean, this is a huge country. You know, everybody's jokes that Americans are so poorly traveled, this and that. But then other
Mhm.
people joke and go, "Well, this country's so huge, you never have to vacation outside of it." But I do think that is a problem. Is people don't understand how the rest of the world really works. I mean, even if a more friendly country like in England, which is a lot like us, we still have very different culture. Or you go into, one of the Arab nations, and that's a completely different culture, right? And I don't think people understand it. They think they saw a movie or they think they heard somebody's opinion on it, and they really don't. They really don't get it.
Mhm. It's a good point. Very good point. What made you choose the army? Is it because of your dad?
Actually, I was supposed to go to the Marine Corps. I was actually, you asked and enlisted. I was actually supposed to go in flight school for the Marines.
Really?
I broke my yeah. So they have, everyone always thinks you go in, you got to go to college to one of the military academies, or you got to be in the army and you go to like a green to gold or a program.
Mhm.
There's actually a program was again. This is 1996. So I don't know if it's still there, but they will select people to go in from each state. Same kind of they send to the academy. There's a couple people from each state graduate college, and you go before a military board and you can then go in, you go to OCS and all your training that way.
Mhm.
And that's what I was supposed to do. But I broke my wrist and then I couldn't meet some of the timelines. And then they were going to bump me like 6 months. And I was like, hey, I just graduated college. I was newly married. I closed down I had a small landscape company. I do like brick walks and pave. And I closed that down. I was like, I need to go in. Well, Army recruiting was literally right next door. I just went, bloop, went in there and I joined.
Nice. My brother was a Marine aviator. He did the OCS thing in college, and then he transferred to the Army. So, yeah. Yeah, he did 1 summer of OCS his junior year, and then he went back. No, he was sophomore, junior, then he commissioned once he graduated, but yeah. And we went up to, Quantico to watch him graduate. Yeah. Yeah, so he was in Marine for a while, and he joined the Army, or he transferred to the Army. Yeah, very cool, man. So you joined the Army, and was Ranger School already kinda on the horizon, or was that something that once you got in, you decided to go after it?
No, another kind of funny story. So, and again, I will poke fun at other military units, but by no means, they're all great Americans. But I was supposed to go, I didn't have any knowledge. I was supposed to go to the 101st. And then about 2 weeks from graduation of basic training, one of my drill sergeants, who was a Panama Ranger, came up to my bunk and stand there, parade rest, ready to get screamed at. He's like, Hagerty, where are you going? I said, 101st drill sergeant. Because you want a Ranger contract? You know what that is? He said, this is the best of the best. You want to go there? So I turned the guy to my left. This guy had brought a red silk kimono to basic training. So guess what that dude wore
Nice.
all day whenever we were in the field.
Nice.
So I look at him, I go, where are you going? He was 101st. I turned to the guy to my right, and he was a nice guy, but he had kind of the eyes that couldn't focus on you. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
where are you going? He goes, 101st. I'm like,
Oh,
Drill Sergeant,
shit.
I'll take that Ranger contract. So they literally changed my orders. And 2 weeks later, the airborne school, then RIP, then to regiment, and then in regiment took me about a year to get up on the roster list to get me to go to Ranger school.
Wow.
But
Nice,
yeah,
man.
that
That's
took
like
a sharp turn.
that's like something out of Stripes, dude.
I know, right? Just minus the RV.
Relax, Francis. Yeah. That's crazy. Well, man, that's pretty wild. You really know what you were getting into, and you went down that path. What year was this?
96. Yeah, I graduated
96.
August
Okay.
of 96, and I went in the Army in October of 96, so and then
Okay.
wanted infantry. And I
Yeah.
graduated college, and the recruiter's like, "Hey, but you could do" "Nope, infantry." He's like, "But you could really" "Nope." I'm like, "Son of a"
Yeah. That's wow. Well, you must have been a PT stud already at basic then, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
But here's why. So I was. But again, my father had been a drill sergeant. He told me,
True.
he's like, "Listen, don't be the best and don't be the worst, and they'll leave you alone."
Mhm.
He's like, "Don't you dare outrun anybody, but don't let everybody beat you." And
Yeah,
that's why.
that's
I mean,
good.
they'd do mail call like the last couple of weeks, and one of the drill sergeants would be Hagerty. Who the hell is Hagerty? Where have you been hiding? I do what my dad said, kept my mouth shut.
Good advice. Yeah, that's great advice. So all you listening, if you're thinking about joining the military, that's good advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great
Don't be
advice.
first and don't be last, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, man. Well, so you go through so you do infantry school, basic infantry, then you go to airborne, then you go to ranger school. Is that how it works?
No, then you go to RIP,
RIP.
which
Okay.
changed
It's
now. Now
RAS
it's
now,
called
right?
RAS,
Isn't it
but yeah.
RAS? Yeah.
But then it was Ranger Indoctrination. I think it
Okay.
was 2 or 3 weeks, and then you get selected to go to your battalion, and then you've got to earn going to Ranger school.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once
So
you get through ranger school, then you go back and then try to go through selection for the regiment, or how does that work?
no, then so they kept me. So in at least on the infantry side of the house, the combat arms side and the Rangers, in order to promote and be any sort of leader, you have to have your Ranger tab, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, they send us as E4, so we're the next group of E5s, the next group of E6s. So it's a planned path. Now, again, a lot has changed. My dad, I left there in 06, but the entire thing was growing the leaders kind of within, sending you out to regular army for a year or two, then come back and grow them within. So no, those spots for me as I promoted.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know when I did ROTC in college for a couple years, and I know before I got there, they were sending ROTC cadets to Ranger School, and then they stopped because these guys wouldn't contract to go in the Army, so they quit doing it. You could go to airborne, but you had to be contracted. But
Yeah.
everything because they were trying to push me. I ended up joining the Navy, but they were pushing me to stay Army, and I was just too hard headed. Looking back, I probably should have done that, but I wanted to go Navy, so I was like, nah, I'll do my 2 years, and then I'm gonna be done for hypers in college. But yeah, okay. Well, so let's without revealing too much, can you get into a little bit of your time in the regiment,
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
where you
Yeah.
were stationed and all
Yeah.
that?
So I went straight to Savannah, Georgia. I was in 175. Was there for God, I left in 03. So I went to combat with the Rangers. I went in 02. And then I went to Afghanistan, and then I went 03 I was in the invasion force. And then I didn't get promoted. I got passed over, and it was like the second time. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I should be in E7 now. I'm in a platoon sergeant position. So I decided to take an instructor job back at pre-ranger, and went back to got the Army to pay for my master's degree. So I figured, okay, I'm going to go back. I'll do some instructor time, something different, get my master's, and then boom, I got promoted immediately.
Wow.
So I did that 2 years, and I ended up working pre-ranger for about a hot minute, and then boom, they moved me to ops. So I was like an executive officer, but it was all run by NCO. So
Okay.
I couldn't be called that. So then I ran like the training courses. Like I set up their ranges. I made sure that the cooks were out there with chow. I made sure that ammo was ordered, things like that. Basically, just
Mhm.
making sure everything ran smoothly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and while I did that, I did my master's, and then I trained up to go to selection.
Nice. So, you said you left in 03?
I left in 03. I left 175 to go back to Fort Benning to be in RTD. And then I did selection in the fall of 05. And I reported up here to Belvoir, January 10th, 06.
What made you leave the regiment to go up to Belvoir?
Well, one, I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. And I've got a Ranger Regiment reunion coming up next month. Absolutely loved it. Loved the guys. I was getting beat up. I'd already had several knee surgeries. I was looking at a shoulder surgery, and I was looking at the longevity of my career. And I'm getting near that 10-year mark where it's kind of hey, I hit that 10-year mark. I'm pretty much, I'm in it to win it. Am I going to be able to hold up, or is this going to chew me up and spit me out? Maybe I need to try to use my brain a little bit more than brawn. So, and again, because some of those deployments were brutal.
I'm sure. Yeah,
They,
I'm sure.
and I'm not even talking combat. I'm talking walking up over a mountain carrying all that crap. You're just like, this is ridiculous. You're
Yeah.
breaking me in half. And I was a
Yeah.
little older, but a lot of them too were. I was still considered the old guy because I'd gone through college. I joined at 23.
Right.
So you go forward 6 years, I'm pushing 30.
Mm-hmm.
It's a younger man's game in some of those operations.
I'm glad you shared that because I don't know how many people really understand that because, there is a major difference in an 18-year-old right out of high school and then a guy who's 23 that's been in college. And I was in buds at 26 and it is hell when you're 26 compared to that kid right out of high school that can't break anything.
Yeah,
And you're like,
exactly.
damn, my knee hurts or my arm hurt. Like, what's going on, But so I'm glad you shared that because that's good perspective for anyone listening that's considering a career in the military. I think that's an important piece that doesn't get talked.
Yeah, it does. It does the wear. Well, and what I tell everybody, and any young soldier always me, is, hey, don't jump off the back of that 5-ton. Save your knees. Come on, man. Trust me.
Yeah.
18, don't act 18. Act
Right.
25 because
Right.
you're going to pay for it later. Trust me.
Yeah.
I've had 6 knee surgeries. You're going to pay for it later.
That should be on a t-shirt, man.
Yeah. I know, right? Anyone listen out there, you can just take it. That's fine.
There you go. There you go. Well, obviously, treading lightly. What when you got to Belvoir, man, what did that look like, especially going from the regiment up there?
Wow, a completely different animal. First of all, I was sitting there and I'm gonna be more with my head, with my brains and my brawn. Selection was grueling. It's not as bad as Bragg by any means physically, but just the mental exhaustion and it combined with it. And again, like I had already 3 knee surgeries, so just up and over those mountains, I was like, wait, didn't I try to get away from this? wait, wait a minute, this is a bigger mountain. That wasn't smart. What was cool was, one, obviously getting into those higher levels where it's kind of like the big boy rules,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, they give you the rope, you hang yourself. Right place, right time, right uniform, and you're going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I enjoyed it because regiment, I couldn't even decide what I wanted to do in the morning. It's whatever the squad leader wanted to do, or the platoon sergeant for PT,
Yeah.
or we're doing a run today, or today's. Now I got to, and especially too, like I said, I was breaking down a little bit. So I was a swimmer and I'm in high school. So I'm like, listen, I don't need to go run 5 miles on these knees. Got it though. Got to do some cardio and I can pass a PT test, but I don't need to do every day. But I can go to the pool and I can go ride my bike. I mean, I'm out here in Virginia. There's trail. You can't swing a dead cat without finding a trail. So I could do alternate stuff and nobody blinked. Right. Nobody be like, oh, it's group PT. You've got to be out front in your PT. Where's your belt? It's got to be across your. They didn't care what we did. As long as you're in the office by 9.
Right.
As long as we didn't get fat.
Right. You didn't have to rock the Ranger panties as a group.
I still got them somewhere in the house.
Yeah, I'm sure you do, man.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you this, and for those of you that are watching and listening and haven't picked up Jones Point yet. So I assume this, man, and you tell me because you're the author, but I'm reading this book and I'm assuming that Dane is Sean. That's just me, but
it's funny. My wife and I talk about that all the time. I tell her it's not me, but his reactions are. So I was doing a discussion with a friend, and we were talking about military deployments and what's at least in our mind, especially as young fathers at the time, is I wasn't necessarily scared to get killed. I wasn't necessarily scared to get blown up. I mean, obviously a little bit, but my biggest worry was my family back home. Something happened to my kids. I'm not there to, now, even if it's like, especially read the book, it's unreasonable. He could not have stopped what happened. Right. But you still got that protector mentality that I need to be home and present. And if something happened and I wasn't there and I didn't intervene, how could I live with myself? So a lot of the stuff he does is, and too, like, some people wrote the book and said, you don't give him, they like the character, but they're like, hey, he doesn't get super outgoing in the book. I said, because he's turned on mission all the time because he's looking for his daughter. He doesn't turn it off. So you're seeing that wearing him down as well. He can't show emotion. He knows he's using his military mindset. I got to push that out of the way. I got to finish the mission. There'll be time for emotion later.
Mm-hmm.
So but his responses and stuff like that, yeah, that's totally what I would say.
Yeah, okay, and that makes sense. And I kind of was reading and with his job in the book, I assumed that was relatable to your experience.
Similar,
Okay.
yeah. I, of course, it's fiction, so you got to take a little license, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But
I try not to get too crazy. It wasn't James Bond shooting people coming down in a Halo parachute. No, we didn't do that crap. But
no, it was. Well, so here's a question for you. I want to segue into this real quick because you just mentioned Dane, the character. when it comes to mental health, and this platform on this show really gets into
Mhm.
mental health awareness, especially in men, because a lot of us that have been veterans and first responders, that's not a topic that we necessarily talk about a lot and things like that, or was taboo back in the day. What kind of tips or what kind of habits did you use as an individual to help with your mental health and your mental state?
I'm glad you asked me that. So you see stuff on my wall now, right? My den, I've been
Yep.
out of the military 4 years. That stuff's never been in my house before in my life. It's been in the
Really?
closet, never been hung on walls. I never
Wow.
worn a uniform in and out of the front door of my home, ever. When I come home from work, it's done. I don't bring work home. And that I
Yeah.
think helped me, especially in regiment, keeping that compartmentalized. And that's my work face and that's my home with my family face.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's the healthiest approach, but it seemed to work for me. Now as again, I'm a little older. I am retired. I've stepped away from it for so many years. I'm obviously doing podcasts and advertising for my books, and
Hmm.
I do a lot of veteran events, and I do a lot of stuff with the Rangers. So I got to have some of it back up on the walls. But yeah, this is like the first place I've really had stuff up.
Wow. Well, and I know I've talked to a lot of guys, especially from law enforcement, that struggle with, the identity piece. They wore the uniform for so many years, and then they retire or they walk away from the job, and then they cannot. It's hard for them to transition back into the individual versus the job or the title. How was that for you, Sean, when you got out of the army? Was that a hard transition for you?
So again, yes and no. I took myself out of the game. First, to go back to your original point is by me separating my military from my private life, what I was doing was trying to make two identities: Sean the soldier and Sean the husband and father. Right, that was kind of my goal. When I transitioned out too, it was easier. If I had left from the Rangers and retired, I believe it would have been a lot harder transition. Point being is because the Rangers was grouped, right? A platoon of 42 dudes. I knew everybody's wife. I knew. So yeah, my first team leader in the unit, I didn't meet him for 2 years. He's deployed.
Wow.
I'm deployed. We were off schedule. I'd be out doing a training. He'd be supporting selection. I got great NCOERs. I mean, they were beautiful, but I never met the man. So that's how it is. We had another guy. He had to go. He was from the Marines, and back in the day when you went to like us or you went down to Bragg, they wouldn't let the Marines stay full through. I think you could do a 3 year or a 5 year. I can't remember. Whatever the time, you would go back and serve the Corps for a year, and then you can come back. This guy left and came back, and none of us knew. He went back to the Marines, did a deployment. Kirk comes back, and he's like, "Hey guys, I'm back." And we're like, "Where'd you go?"
Dang, that's crazy, man.
Well,
That's
it's also very,
crazy.
very small. We're very small.
You're right, right. I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure. Wow, that's hilarious,
yeah, it's pretty
man.
funny. So it was easier.
Um,
It was easier to make
with
that transition, and I was writing the books, so that was kind of keeping
yeah,
me connected. I literally was writing during my year that I was getting rehabbed and getting out of the army because it gave us a good solid year to transition.
yeah.
So I was writing at the time, and I think that really helped me.
Oh, I'm sure. It's definitely even just journaling is so therapeutic, and it's a good way to, I think, especially for mental health, just to get things out
Mhm.
and not compartmentalize things. So that makes sense. Yeah, it's a good point. Um, well, as far as like, where did you like? How did you even get to become to this, this author period in your life? Like, was that something that you were exposed to when you were younger, or is it just you just always enjoyed to read or always
Oh yeah.
enjoyed to write? Like, kind of okay.
Yeah, no, no. So I will say that people have heard me say this before. So when I was a kid growing up, my parents were fairly strict, not in a bad way, but they were fairly strict. But you see those kids in the store and they want candy, and mom didn't go. They want toy. No, I could look
Hmm.
at a TV guide, they'd buy it. a comic book, they'd buy it. Anything that had written words was in our house. My parents were huge readers. I was a huge reader. So my mother was constantly bringing stuff home. My dad and I were constantly reading all the Clancy's and all the books.
Okay.
But then when I went in for my degrees, I did a lot of history. So a lot of people thought I'd get out and write nonfiction or write about my time in the service of this. And I just didn't want to. And I was going through, it was called the Commit Foundation. And with my counselor, and I was giving him a little bit of hell because he, what do you like to do? And I told him I like to write. So he's, all right, let's start getting on this. You got to look at your second part of your life and you want to be an author. And I was like, dude, I want to pay my mortgage. Hang on a minute. I'll do this as a hobby, but
Yeah.
it's not going to pay anything. I don't want to be eating cat food. So I did a couple things and just kind of goofing around with like writing into some stories. And actually one of the chapters in the book, I forget which number it is without looking at it, but I actually wrote that chapter first. The
Oh,
FBI
okay.
guy on the bus, I wrote that first.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I
yeah.
was
Okay.
public transportation and seen that stuff. And I looked down one day and I was like, I got 30,000 words. And I go to the computer and how much for a vengeance thriller? And it's like 90,000 minimum, 70 to 100, but 90 is the sweet spot. I'm like, I can do that.
Nice.
So I was like, yeah, just do it.
What tell us about like Jones Point. What was your inspiration for the title of the book?
So the title for the book is from chapter 11. And that's where so to back up in it, obviously loses his daughter's kidnapped and he gets pretty much recruited into a cabal of like-minded parents, all different jobs, all different walks of life. Right. But in doing this, I had to be I wanted to be, and made sure I was very, very careful and sensitive on the topic. Anything with sex trafficking, anything with abduction, anything. I didn't want gory. I didn't want that. I did have a child who died. And that was one, and that was probably the hardest chapter to write because I was trying to keep it right. I had a dog killed, and I've got like hate mail from people. I'm like, there's
I'm
no
sure,
dogs
man.
were killed writing this book. For the love of come on, guys. So yeah, it was actually a different title. And then when I wrote that one, I was like, this is a pivotal because there's a element of the police as well that is investigating abductors, and then you've got the cabal vigilantes investigating abductors and their paths crossing and then staying on the crosshairs. So it was important for them as well because they have been tracking this child and it's kind of heartbreaking for the police as well to have a child victim like that. So that's why.
Okay, so that kind of leads into my next question. You just nailed it, but the topic of human trafficking, let's just go with that for YouTube's sake, because then I get flagged. What brought that about? Like, what made you decide to? Because I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I did read Jones Point, but that's kind of, from my point of view, the focal point of the book is the dark side of abductions, that trade, or however you want to put it, what happens to innocent kids, and that is a horrific thing, and it's very dark. Like, what drew you to write about that, or what
I think
inspired
it
you to
goes
write?
back to that what was my one fear when I was in the service, was having two daughters, and one of them being abducted. The thing too is in the first book, I didn't touch as much into the sex trafficking. I get to it more in Cabal. And even that, it's just I'm glad to see it's getting awareness, right? It's one of those things that's,
Yeah.
not talking about, but I also don't want to glorify it. So that's, it's kind of almost like, certain news agencies, you'll see there'll be like a mass shooting, but they won't say the killer's name because they don't want to have publicity. Same kind of theory is I don't want to glorify it.
Right.
Identify the problem and it just fit into the way my story went. And again, it goes back to another point you'd asked before is if you look at the character dynamics, and it comes out more in the other books, is in the Cabal, there's all different people jobs, right? Someone goes and gets guns, someone gets cars, there's safe houses, this and that. But you've got a couple of the guys that are the shooters, Dane, Sam. And in one of them, you can see how one of them's kind of getting out of control. Like his life, you don't care anymore, right? He's just going. So it's kind of like almost like that brotherhood of them going, hey, we share the same pain of missing daughters. We're going to do this together.
Yeah, I mean, and it's I probably used the wrong word when I said sex trafficking. I was just thinking, because I'm thinking back to the book in my head while I'm speaking to you, and
Well, you're
Just
right.
thinking of the
You're right. But this is the part is because I don't want to ruin it for you because I know you.
No, don't ruin
Well,
it.
I don't
Don't
want to
ruin
ruin
it.
Cabal, and I don't want to ruin the third book that comes out in 27. But it's going to throw you for a twist of where it's going. So
Okay.
it's still
Okay.
nefarious. It's still these people deserve to be wiped from the planet. But it's an interesting. You get into their mindset and what they're thinking and why.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like I told you earlier, like I haven't read a lot of nonfiction. Like most of what I've been reading is people that come on the show, that's some of their book, like it's kind of overview of their career, or it's like a self-help, lack of a better word, type book, mental health type book. So I'm reading this and the whole time thinking, man, this would be an awesome movie. Like it's like playing out, you been thinking about that?
There might be a screenplay already written. It may be.
All
Well,
right.
I'm
Nice.
trying. Again, I got to pay that
Yeah.
mortgage.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome, man.
trying to work on something. But yeah, and again too, I think getting into this and getting to meet a lot of different authors is too. You write what you like to read, the style you like to read, right? I mean, this is the way I like. This is the type of books I enjoy. I don't enjoy a whodunit as much because I don't know. I maybe I did that too much in my life, a job that I don't feel like thinking that hard. But I like to be surprised and twists. But and again, I told you I grew up reading Clancy's and Patterson's
Hmm.
and Balducci and Mitch Rapp series. I mean, I've read all those. So those are the type of kind of books I like to read.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, coming, from your military background and obviously very high speed, a lot of adrenaline. What do you do now to kind of, do you still look for that rush periodically or do you get that from writing? Like how do you feel that? What do you do?
I don't know. I have no desire for it
Okay.
anymore.
Okay. All
I
right. All
get
right.
on with
That's fair.
the Rangers and I jump out of a perfectly good airplane once a year into the water.
Nice.
But other than that, I don't. I mean,
Okay.
I don't. I think it's like I took all that energy and I transferred it like maybe to something else that now I want to travel more. Now I want to I want to do more stuff with my family. I
Hmm.
mean, I still go to the range now and then. I'm going this coming weekend with some buddies. I still do some stuff, but I think that's another reason why it was easy for me to transition. So what you had asked earlier was, so I took myself out of the field in 2015. I was on my last mission and I was attached to another group and we had to go on a hit and we came back and we had these, those compounds and they had like the crappy wooden barracks that almost like we built them ourselves, right?
Hmm.
And it's like 3 a.m. There's a bar in there and everybody's running in, putting their stuff down, grabbing a drink. Like, hey man, you gonna have a drink? I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put my stuff in my room. I go down to my room and I sit down in my bed and mind you, I'm now 42. I had tears just trying to get my body armor off, just get my boots off and get flip flop. I just ran through the mud and the muck, I'm like, oh, that's it. I'm done. Not only am
Yeah.
I going to hurt myself, I'm going to be a liability to others. And that was really the thing. So that's when I really had decided that my career is now coming to an end. It didn't end because I'm like, all right, now it's time to totally use brains. I am going into staff. I actually, from there, was selected to be our assessment and selection sergeant major. So I ran that for 2.5 years, thinking I'm going to save myself. And I drove dirt bikes all over the mountains. Every time I think I get away from it, I'm crashing a motorcycle. So
That's
maybe that's why.
awesome.
Maybe my body finally just said, "Oh, for the love of God, stop! Just
Yeah.
stop."
But it sounds like you were really self-aware, especially, during your military career and able to say, okay, this is my body just can't take it anymore. I think a lot of guys don't have that, man. They just want to keep pushing the envelope until they just completely break.
Well, I don't know. See, and this is where I think it's different. If I had been in regiment to be in this unit, because most guys will push themselves to the breaking point, not because of the mission, but because of the guys to the left and right of them.
Right.
Right. A lot of people don't want to get out because they don't want to get out and then find out their team had a death 6 months later. Right. It's almost that same
Hmm.
protector thing. If I would have been home, if Dane
Hmm.
would have been home, the daughters wouldn't have been kidnapped. That's not true. Same as that's not true. But that's still that
Right.
mentality we have, which is something that I'm seeing kind of make a resurgence in society. Is that kind of role again of the protect? And it's not meant to be sexist. It's not. It's just it's human nature.
Hmm.
Nothing wrong with it.
I'm glad you said that because it does feel like there's this movement of almost for so many years, there's been this demasculinization in society, and now I feel like there's this movement of like, okay, we're ready for the real man to show back up. Like we need him. We need him here. But now we've beat him down so bad, we're having to almost rebuild that whole identity. And I'm glad you said that, man, because I really feel that change too. I really
Hey,
do.
look at what's going on right now with Artemis, how long it took us because we forgot Apollo and we forgot
Yeah.
how to do it. And we forgot and we pushed the programs aside. Again, maybe not the greatest analogy, but it really is. We forgot how to do it. And society lost interest. And yeah, you're right. And that's another reason why I'm having some success with my books, and you're seeing other shows, whether you like them on or not on TV, you're seeing your reachers, your terminalists. That kind of stuff would not have been made 6-8 years ago. Mm-mm.
You want to hear a funny story about Reacher?
Sure.
So you know that whole deal with him getting in a fight when he was on his bike and the neighbor and all that.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. I heard about that.
That's right up the street from where I live. Not the neighborhood, but the town. Yeah, it was in Brentwood, and I'm in Franklin, so it was like right there. Because I didn't know he lived here, and I saw it. I was like, "Dang, dude lives in Brentwood." I didn't know
You could have
that.
been running out there and filming for TMZ and making yourself some money.
I know, right? I had no idea. Well, I got to ask you, since you brought this up, have you seen that new movie he's got on Netflix? Dude, let's get into that real fast, because how bad did they make Ranger School? Or it was Rasp. I get it wasn't Ranger School, it was Rasp.
Yeah,
dude, it was so cheesy. Like I bet you were cringing during.
I kept pouring another cocktail, hoping that would help, and it just did. Now I mean, I also understand it for what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be campy, this and that. But I was like, who the hell? Why couldn't it be Space Force? Why did it have to be Rangers? Why did you let them use the name? That's terrible.
Yeah. It was bad. It was bad. And it was in Colorado too. Wasn't that where the school was or something like that? It wasn't Fort Benning.
No, and then the school was never there. I think when they got rid of desert phase, I think that was Arizona or New Mexico. That was before my time. Yeah.
It was bad. And to me, it was like it was like a Transformers movie. I almost made it all the way through and I turned it off. I was like, I can't take this anymore.
Yeah.
It was bad.
No, I couldn't.
It was bad. But
yeah. I looked for like a rom-com or something, anything other than this, right? Love Island, for God's sakes. Don't make me watch this.
Yeah. Well, maybe. Yeah, it was bad. I mean, the trailer looked halfway decent, and I started watching it, and I was like, "What is this, man?" But yeah, I don't know. You brought Reacher up, so I
did it. I opened that can of worms.
Oh, it's cool, man. It's cool. But well, that kind of segues into something else real quick. So, like growing up, you're a reader, and your parents, you said, would buy you comic books or TV guys, stuff like that. Did you have any favorite movies as a kid or a young adult that were military themed that really kind of pushed you even more into joining the military?
No, I don't think necessarily. I mean, a kid grew up in the 80s. We all loved Commando and Predator and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Really, honestly, the military going in was kind of, and I didn't even think about it as much when I was in high school. Because again, so to back even further, I went to college to be a chemical engineer. And you see, I just keep going crazy paths, right?
Yeah, it's all right, man.
I was a chemical engineer for 3 years, and I'm like, oh my God, I cannot be in a little white lab coat. This is not going to work out for me. I don't care how good a career it is, and I'm sure it's a wonderful one. It's not for me.
Wow.
And that's when like I said, I wanted to do service, and maybe it was some of those influences, maybe. But I just can't point to a specific one.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I mean, in the 80s, man, every movie that was coming out, action movie was. I mean, all of them. I mean, and Mike and I, when he was on the show, I asked him, I said, who is your favorite 80s action hero, Stallone or Schwarzenegger? And he's like, oh, Stallone. I'm like, come on, man. Like, and I even threw Commando out there. I was like, you can't beat Commando.
Yeah, you can't beat
Commando.
Awesome.
No.
But you also, have you read David Morrell's, the original book, Rambo?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Read it. It's probably it's definitely in my top 10, might even have slipped into my top 5.
Wow.
So it's a very, very, and it's a political book in a way.
Really?
And I'll say this. So the movie's totally different, but it had to be. It's one of those, it's the same, but they had to change things. No, it's a story really about bringing the horror of Vietnam home. And it's also a story of the changing of the guard and perception of military men in the country. So the old guard was the Korean Wars, the sheriff, and then Rambo, the Vietnam vet, was kind of the new experience.
Okay.
So It's very interesting, and then he did it on purpose. But then again, by the time the movie was made in the 80s, we'd shifted a little bit, American culture, and we were being a lot more sensitive about those Vietnam vets, where before we didn't mind showing them, even they show them in the movie, right? PTSD and this and that, but we definitely
Yeah.
didn't show that in the 70s. That barely became aware in the 80s. So they were a little bit more sympathetic to the character. Yeah,
Okay, that
character's a
makes
whack
sense.
job in the book. Complete whack job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And aren't they doing a prequel? Aren't they coming out with
I don't know. I
a new
heard.
one? I think I saw something on that, but
I haven't heard, but I will definitely look that up because,
it's not Stallone. He's not. It's like a different
well,
guy,
I can't.
but
I mean, I don't know
it's
how young they can make him.
yeah. All right. Hey, he's Stallone, man. He's
He can do it.
got growth hormone. He's good.
Anyone can pull it off. That man can.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I want to segue back into this real quick because we're kind of jump around a little bit. With your upbringing and speaking about the Catholic school and all that, has your perspective on faith changed where you're at today versus when you were, young guy joining the army with a Catholic school background? Do you have a different perspective on faith and God nowadays?
Yes. So I would say it was a pendulum swing, right?
Okay.
So as a younger man, I did everything, believe, I don't want to say believe because it's not that I don't believe now, but I kind of adhered to everything, agreed, nodded my head at the right times. And then as I became a young man, I kind of pushed back against some of the principles. I don't agree with some of these things. That's why sometimes I joke I'm a recovering Catholic, even though I still follow the tenets. I just don't do the sacraments. But and then as the pendulum kind of started coming back, as becoming a father, start seeing it from a different, because we change, our brains change, our
Hmm.
experiences change. You might have an opinion on one thing here, and then 10 years later, something totally changes it for you. Because I do, and I still do, I'm not swung fully back yet, because I think, especially on the Catholic Church side, is they need to continue moving forward slowly and embracing that there is going to be some societal changes, right?
Hmm.
You can still call things a sin. You can still refuse certain things, like if you don't believe in, gay marriage, it can't be married in your church. Fine, that's your prerogative.
Hmm.
But I just can't blindly adhere to something like that. That's all. It's issues like that. Some of them I just go,
Okay.
uh, maybe ease up a little bit. I'm not fully. It's kind of like my politics. I mean, I'm not going to get into politics here, but I'm not like
Yeah.
you, conservative. I'm not, I'm neither. There's things I like from each party. Um, Not 100%, but I am still conservative. But there are some
Yeah.
things that I'm a little more, in my mind, lenient on. I think we're
Well,
wasting our time.
and I think that's a good point because I think people lose sight of religion and then Christianity, because as a Christian, and I've trust me, I've had to, like, as I've gotten older and came back, because I walked away from God for years. When I came back, I had to realize you can't just follow this etched set of rules and then expect to be perfect and not make a mistake. And you can't hold that standard for other people. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen is there's so much church hurt out there. I was raised in a Church of Christ, which is very legalistic, and I understand that concept. But when you go through, like, I've been divorced twice, right? And there was a church I was attending where I was no longer welcome because I was going through a divorce. That's wrong. That's
Yeah,
not Christianity. That's
and that's
legalism.
yeah,
And that's why people decide, well, okay, I'm not even going to believe in God because this church or this preacher or whoever, makes this decision, when that's man doing it. It's not God, but it's man. So then that's where it can come to a point where it's almost political. So I have really tried to grow in that and accept people and just say, hey, you're adults. You're going to have different opinions. And that's what makes this country so great, is that you don't have to think like me, as long as you're not trying to hurt me or my family,
exactly.
you know.
I think what's happening is, I like a phrase I borrowed from a buddy of mine. I won't say his name because he may not want to be outed, but I think a lot of issues too is we're pole vaulting over mousetraps. We are getting all hyped up over something so minuscule, when you're also watching on the other side of society a complete collapse of morality. And that's where I'm sitting there going, the crime, the riots in the streets. I live in DC area. I'm sure you see the news. The kids taking over and smashing up National Harbor, and smashing up, and guns going off. And I'm like, whoa, whose 14-year-old is out at 11 o'clock at night in the streets of DC?
Yeah.
And now I get it. There's gonna be some, well, I'm working parents that can't. we figured it out. You could figure it out.
Hmm.
It's just basic morality is not being taught anymore. So I'm like, let's stop yelling over who's got what colored hair or who loves who. Let's start worrying about just being decent people. And that's what I
Yeah.
want to see the church go everywhere. Getting attacked. I mean, you say you're a Christian, and all of a sudden there's against you, like, oh my God, you're white supremacist. What?
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Um,
It's amazing the hatred I get for talking about Jesus. I'm just like, hey, if you don't like it, don't watch it,
yeah,
man. It's cool. Like,
exactly.
whatever.
Turn the channel.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. People, I had a guy, I was reading the book of Proverbs. I had a hat and I was reading. This is back before I even started the podcast. I just put it on YouTube. And this guy that just blasted me, man. He called me like a Satanist and all. And I'm like, dude, I'm reading the Bible, man. Like, what are you talking about? But because I had a hat on and I'm like, I'm in my house. It's like, but people are crazy, man. They get so worked up. And I think that's a good point that the church could do a better job of just, hey, let's just create some decent people that can get along with each other and have difference of opinions versus, oh, you're going to hell because you did
Yeah,
this and
exactly. And
all
that's
that.
that's where they had kind of lost me for a time being, and
Yeah.
that's when I kind of said to myself, and my wife's a very similar way, is we can live a moral life. I don't. I've read the Bible several times. I went to Catholic. I've read every text. I've read every one. We had to study every religion.
But
So that was interesting too. You get a perspective from other people, other cultures, how other people view, how other people view God, Yahweh, Allah, however you want to call it. And it ties back kind of to the books, is the morality of even the books, and that's something that I do have a screenwriting partner. I'm not going to get out too much ahead of him on this, but when we looked at the series, we did kind of look at that um, Hallel Godel, the avenger of the family. When is it justified? And each religion addresses it, and actually,
hmm
the one that addresses it that I found so far, I'm not a scholar, is actually Islam. Well, Judaism, you have the responsibility to avenge a family member, but Islam says that the family member has the ultimate choice whether the person lives or dies. If they kill someone in your family, you have the choice as the heir. So it's just an interesting way to deal with that morality,
yeah.
and I deal with it in the book.
Speaking of the Bible, do you have like a favorite scripture that jumps out at you or one that you've kind of remembered
No,
over the years?
no, I really
Okay.
don't. I really don't. Because like I said, I have not gone back to it.
Hmm.
I enjoy. I mean, I remember reading it clearly, but
Hmm.
I just never was big into the memorization of passages and such. So no, I do not have one.
What about a creed or a quote or something you like to share with the audience?
If you have a why to live, you can put up with any how. And again, I butchered a little bit. It's a Nietzsche quote, and in that he is talking about um, that you make your own destiny. And later on, a Holocaust survivor used the same quote. Okay, I'm going to mess up his Frankel, and he used the same quote, but he identified it as fate is brings you and gives you the reason for you to step up. And so basically, I apply that to my book. Is the why is trying to find his daughter. He can live with any how, right? Whatever consequence, I can live with whatever consequences. And that's what this Holocaust survivor was talking about. His will to get out with his wife, he can
Hmm.
endure anyhow. Any
Okay.
punishment, any torture, anything like that.
It's a good ask. I like that, man. That's a good thanks for sharing
Yeah,
that.
I'll have to send you the exact. I've got it somewhere on my computer. Like I said, I
Okay.
don't memorize them offhand, but um,
And because I'm trying to do my part to alleviate some of the church hurt in the world, and I do feel compelled to spread the gospel because I hear everything you're saying, and I do think Christ is there for everybody, even though their man has kind of stepped in and made that unpleasant for some people. I'm going to share a verse I have today from Romans. It's Romans 10:17. So faith comes from hearing the good news, and people hear the good news when someone tells them about Christ. And I just want to share that so anyone listening, regardless of your background, your past, what you believe, Jesus loves you no matter what. And he's always there waiting for you, regardless of what you've done. And it took me a long time and a lot of self sabotage to understand and losing everything to understand what that really meant because I was the guy that felt like God was up in the clouds throwing lightning bolts at me if I screwed up. And so I just said, you know what? I don't want any part of it because I can't do it.
mhm.
I can't hold the standard. And that was me putting it on myself. But I think a lot of folks, at least in the South, that grew up in kind of legalistic churches, struggle with that. And they most of the times they don't come back, man. They
Yep.
leave it and they don't come
Yeah.
back because it's just too much pressure.
It does seem like that I've seen throughout my life, though, is a lot of the non-denominational are becoming super popular, and because it's one of those,
Hmm.
we follow the faith, but we'll read from scripture, but we're not telling you have to do this 100% thing. You don't have to say your Hail Marys and your Our Fathers, and
Yeah.
I don't have to go in a booth and tell a priest that my sins. I can tell them directly to God. I don't have to go through anybody else. And I think that's becoming way more popular. Like, it seems like there's been an explosion of those types of religious outlets. And I think I personally believe that's a good, I don't want to say compromise, because that's not what I mean, but it's a good way of addressing, again, not pole vaulting over that mouse turd, is looking at the big issue of morality and let some of the little
Yeah.
stuff go. That's not worth it. You're not going to fix that.
And I think too, grace plays a role in that because that's something that's not discussed as much in a legalistic setting. And so people are understanding it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not be perfect. And I think that's like, you're right with the non-denominational, maybe the more charismatic, it's teaching people that like, you can make a mistake and you're not broken, or you're not just cast out because you had a drinking problem or you got divorced, or whatever the case may be. And a lot of men, especially that I know, they struggle with that because they feel like they can't come back from it,
Yeah.
like they screwed up and they don't have another shot at it.
And that's the message the church needs to be working. I mean,
100%, man.
that's what I would say is always been my biggest issue. That's what you got to work on. You got to get those
Hmm.
guys back.
Yeah.
And that's the way to do it.
Well, tell us where we can find your books and learn more about you.
So, I am on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Bookshop, and they're all three, paperback, Kindle, and Audible. Just finally came out for the second book, and then I am at authorseanhagerty.com. We get links all there. It's all my information there. Our announcements of where I'll be signing books, stuff like that.
And I'm going to put in the notes in the description here links to get your book, learn more about you. And you want to share your social media pages also?
Oh, I forget which ones. I think it's all.
I know you're on Instagram. You're on TikTok.
I am
I'm
the
gonna have to
worst.
pull it up.
I
It's
never could have them in the service. So I've only had them
Yeah,
for 4
yeah, yeah,
years.
yeah.
I did the
Right.
first time I did something on Facebook. My wife comes in the room. She says, "You just liked your own post, you idiot." Damn it. Damn it. I go, "But it was a good post."
That's
She's like, "No, it wasn't
that's
that good." It's
awesome.
like, it wasn't that
That's
good.
awesome. That is the thing, man. Like, social media gets a lot of bad press, but I've learned there is a good side to
Yeah.
it. Doing this
Yeah.
podcast, I've networked with a lot of good people, but you have to use it as almost like a marketing tool or like a billboard to drive people to your, whether it's your book or a podcast or whatever. So it is kind of a necessary evil
No, you
this
are
day and
completely
age.
correct. I'm author Sean Hagerty on all the platforms.
Yeah, I know I got you on TikTok and Instagram, so
Yeah.
I'll plug that in the
Cool. No,
description too.
appreciate that.
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, I want to ask you this question as we're kind of wrapping up.
Okay.
If there's someone watching right now or someone listening on Spotify and they're on the edge of giving up, they just feel like they have no purpose, they just have no direction in life. What would you say to that person, Sean?
You know, I'm assuming in person, right? I don't have to talk to him on the phone.
Mm, yeah, wherever. I
I
mean,
mean,
just somebody
just
listening.
kind of try to let them know that life is precious. Kind of, we were discussing before, no matter what happens, we all make mistakes. We've all done bad things. We've all sinned. We've all had sins done against us. But at the end of the day, there is nothing more precious than life, and taking that, there's no reason for it, and reach out. And that's where hopefully that person like that has, someone like me, a friend network, or the vets. I always tell guys, get over to the VFW. I'll meet you over there in 2 minutes. We're going to have a beer and talk about this. And then I'm going to introduce you to the chaplain, and right. Find out about that person and the resources, keep them going. But there's no quit. There's no quit in life. That's, that's pretty much what I tell them. No quit in life.
Yeah, that's good. It's good advice. And I think more people need to hear that people love you, people care about you, and your life has meaning regardless of what you've been through, what your circumstances
Mhm.
are, and the world's a better place with you in it.
Yeah, no, that you said it better.
No, well, that's because I do it all
Yeah.
the time. So, but I just like to ask that, or just bring that up, because so many people, and this is a mental health platform, and so many guys I know, I've been there, where you feel like you're all alone, and you don't have like good example is divorce. Like, I don't see my kids every day, and that is, even to this day, it's brutal. I mean, I've been
Yeah.
divorced for 3 years, and I'm fortunate to have my son 50% of the time, but it's hard, man. And it's easy to let that darkness creep in sometimes, and you start to feel just the heaviness. And so I want other people out there just to know that they're not alone, that there are other people out there that will support them.
Well, I think too is what happens is people isolate themselves, and you know, something I was telling was find your tribe. So like when I got
Yeah.
out, another way transition easy was where my house was, I was 2 blocks up from the VFW. I mean, I walk in there, I'm like, hey, can I join? They're like, you got your DD-240? Here you go. I was like, wow. So now there's some of the old geezers I don't want to talk to because they're just mean and yelling. But I mean, seeing, guys come in there and really I've made some true friends in there that if I did have an issue, I know exactly who I'd call. I know exactly who would be there. Not, and I know the post itself will reach out and do events and reach out and help people. So, but it doesn't have to be military or police or something. Is find your tribe, because if
Hmm.
you isolate yourself and try to deal with these demons by yourself, it's not, it could be a bad day.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely strength in numbers, for sure. For sure. Well, as we're closing out, man, is there anything else you wanna add before we end tonight's
No,
episode?
this has been great. I really appreciate it. And like I said, I definitely need to get out to Franklin, link up with you in person to go have a beer and
Yeah.
continue some of these discussions. But yeah, and I'll keep you in the loop, everything that's going on. And definitely I'm hoping to sit down with Mike here soon. I got to have another meeting with him. And if nothing else, try to
Nice.
get some more coffee.
Yeah, because you guys are pretty close to each other,
He
right?
actually works where he works. I met him through my wife. She works there, and she was like, "Hey, this guy,
Okay.
spot her up. He does a podcast. Do you guys want to talk?" He's about an hour away, but
Nice.
it was easy. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, pretty close.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Well, Sean, let's close this out with a prayer. You cool with that?
Yeah, please do.
All right, let's do it. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to sit down tonight with Sean and just to share his testimony and to hear more about his career and his work as an author and the books that he's writing. I pray that you will just be with him, bless his family, and be with those listeners out there tonight, Lord, that feel like they don't have a purpose, or maybe they're seeking something bigger than themselves and need to know that they're not alone. Lord, I'm grateful for this platform to have this podcast, and I'm grateful for all you've done in my life and given me the courage and the power and the peace and the purpose to come on here and share stories, meet like-minded men, and just to continue to build a brotherhood. Thank you for all that you do in our lives, and thank you for dying on the cross for our sins. It's in your mighty name that I pray. Amen. Thanks for checking out the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast tonight. Be sure to smash that bell at the bottom, like and subscribe to the channel. I drop new episodes every Wednesday and every Thursday. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Music. Sean, thank you very much for your time tonight, man. It was an absolute honor to speak with you.
Thanks. It was a lot of fun. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. And I really appreciate the books, man. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
yeah, no problem.
Awesome, man. Well, you take care, and you holler at me when you come towards Franklin. We'll go catch a dinner or a cup of coffee or something. Okay.
Sounds good. I'll do it.